morning, everyone. We'll give others a couple minutes here to join the call before we get started. Okay, good morning, everyone. We can get started now, I think. My name is Mike Corcoran. I'm the Director of Information Services for All Chicago, and joining me in the presentation is Alex Fuller, the HMIS analyst with All Chicago. Couple of housekeeping things. The webinar is being recorded. Because of the setup of the webinar, everyone's on mute, so if you have questions, please use the questions box to ask them, and we'll respond to them as much in real time as we can, and there'll also be time at the end for questions. So welcome to the ATA meeting for this month. Some of the items that we'll be covering during the meeting today, some updates from HUD, WellSky, and All Chicago regarding the HMIS. Some updates regarding coordinated entry. Information about the data quality process and reporting. Some updates we made to those. A new thing where we're making some operational reporting available to the community to help utilize the system better. Update on some training items, and an update on administration of inactive users. So first, in terms of HMIS updates, one of the items that HUD has for the 2024 is an update to the 2024 data standards. Some of the items that are proposed to be changed. One is removing the Social Security number. One is changing or adding a category or combining categories for race and ethnicity. Changes to the gender demographic. And a proposal to add a preferred language demographic item. During the webinars they had with us, HUD definitely wants input to these, and they have some suggestions on how we will gather that input. So some of the stuff just came out yesterday, so we're in the process of putting those kinds of things together, but we encourage each agency to provide input. They also want people with lived experience and things like that to also provide input to those things. The next few slides, we'll get into a little bit of detail on that, and I can make the slides available so that you don't have to scribble things down or try to do screenshots or things like that. So again, the data standards changes go into effect October 1st of next year. So as you see on this slide, one of the items is no longer having a requirement to collect a Social Security number. For race and ethnicity, it would basically be combining those current data elements into a single element. And there's an open-ended free text item that's also being added in there if a client doesn't fit in one of the named categories there. For gender, see a fairly significant change, and it's splitting up into two fields. One with their gender identity, and the other is whether they've had any transgender experience. And again, there's an open-ended response for a different identity than those that are specified. And a preferred language. I see a question from Betsy. Let me back up here. About whether a client would be able to select one race, ethnicity, or multiple. And as you see in the description for field 1, as many as are applicable, so it is a multi-select capability in this response. So they don't have to pick one, they can pick multiple. Preferred language. There are multiple languages listed there, and again, an open-ended response if it's not one of the ones provided as part of the pick list. So I can pause there, see if there's any other questions regarding those. Again, we'll have some capability for collecting input for this from the community. Okay. The next item is the upcoming, just a reminder of the upcoming reporting schedule. RHY reporting, ESGCB reporting during this month, SSVF reporting during next month. The LSA process starts next month. The system performance measure is already open, and that's due on February 28th. So I mentioned the LSA process, and you can see the timeline that HUD and the HUD TA have provided to us. Starting as soon as the 1st of November, they want us, they made a number of changes to HDX for doing the uploads, and they want us to start generating the data and doing test uploads, making sure all of the infrastructure and mechanics are in place. And then as you can see, at the end of November, starts the data cleaning and review phase. And just a heads up to everyone that if we do have errors, some of those might require correction or assistance on the part of the agency. So you may be hearing from us as we go through all of that data cleaning stuff for making sure our LSA is uploaded correctly and successfully, so we can meet the deadline in January for getting that completed. As you know, ART was replaced by the latest version of SAP Business Objects earlier this year. Thanks, really appreciation to everybody for making that a very smooth transition. If you need access, there are help desk articles on how to get into Business Objects, what some of the user interface looks like, how it's different, and it is significantly different, as you can see from the screenshot on the slide. There is still, so under ART, when it was ART, there was a live credential, user ID and password synchronization between Service Point and ART. With Business Objects, that's refreshed once a day overnight. So if during the day you change your password in Service Point, you will have issues logging into Business Objects because the credential database has not been synchronized between the two platforms. So please report any of those kinds of issues to the help desk. It is possible to get your password corrected in Business Objects, but we have seen a few people with this kind of an issue, and that's the reason for the issue, is that they haven't done the live real-time synchronization of password changes in Service Point, having that reflected in Business Objects. They're working on that. It's supposed to be in their next iteration of updates to Business Objects, but they haven't completed that yet. For the PIT and HIC, I know this doesn't happen until January and February, but just a heads up. WellSky is in the process of creating and revising reports, including a PIT report that will be based on enrollments. So some of the emergency shelters, if not all of them, I think for the current PIT process, we're reporting that data out of Shelter Point. What we'd like to do going forward, we're still working through this, and we'll be revising instructions and training and things like that, and validating that this will all work properly. We'd like to use Service Point reporting as much as possible and get out of doing this manually on spreadsheets and collecting a lot of data manually. And I know there's pre-HIC surveys and things like that. And a lot of that has to do with unit and bed inventory. And we've also been actively working to make sure that the unit and bed inventory is correct in Service Point. There are some reports that we're going to talk about a little bit later to make those inventory values visible to all of you within your agency. And we encourage you to run those reports and let us know of any discrepancies, because not just the HIC, but several other things will go a lot more smoothly if we make sure that all of our inventory values are correct in the system. So we've been, during the summer, making headway in that, and we'd like to get that all finalized for the PIC, the HIC, data quality for that utilization process, and several other things. And we'll be sure to review any process changes with everybody to make sure everybody's on board, comfortable. If there's any other issues we need to resolve, things like that. But that's the direction. So Dana, there is no PIT report that WellSky has provided. I believe in the current process, there is a report that we're able to run, and Alex, you may be able to respond to this question a little bit better than I can in terms of what that what the existing pit report is and how one might get access to it.
Yeah, so the current pit report that we are using is utilizing the shelter point data versus enrollments. The current report is in business objects, but it is not available currently for providers. So after this call, Dana, we can discuss this a little bit further.
So Dana, in terms of getting ready, so we have some new reports that we're going to cover a little bit later in the presentation that are utilization reports, not necessarily associated, sort of standalone report, not associated with the data quality report, which should make available what the unit inventory is and what the bed inventory is on a project by project basis. Okay, thanks. Any word on the WellSky replacement or update from Erica? Can you be which replacement? The pit report replacement? Is that the one you're referring to? So if your question, Erica, refers to the WellSky replacement or update for the pit report, I believe they targeted in November that would be available. Oh, updating WellSky in 2020. So that would be a change in the HMIS, I believe. And we can come back to that in the questions section if that's okay. Okay, thank you. So coordinated entry update. All Chicago was selected to be the new coordinated entry lead. So we're working through lots of things associated with that. Not associated with that, just a heads up, if there are changes in process to the external transfer request process, the coordinated entry team and the people processing transfers are looking at some deficiencies in the reporting that they get and in some of the data that's collected. So there may be additional questions coming up within the next few weeks in the external transfer assessment. And there may be some workflow changes that could include performing the VI disability and other assessments if the data in there is out of date or hasn't been performed for the client, so that as they look to do the transfer request processing, they have all the data they need in order to complete that successfully. So we'll be updating documentation and training and things like that. They're associated with any of those changes, but just a heads up that that's in the pipeline. So data quality process and reporting. We've been working through trying to clean up the process, given that we had some significant issues in March. Some of the items that we identified that were causing some significant issues. The project inventories in the HMIS were not current or not correct. The data quality utilization reports only reported on permanent housing projects. And the participation was lower than anticipated, I guess, as opposed to expected. And just a couple of notes, until the actual data quality plan is revised or replaced, the current plan is in force. And so we're working on changes to make that existing process more correct and complete and efficient as possible. Probably everybody has lots of things they'd like to change about the data quality thing, and there'll be groups put together, I'm sure, to address that. But for right now, we're trying to make what's in place work as well as it can. So in terms of the project inventory, if we have accurate project inventory in the HMIS, like data quality, the HIC, local valuation instrument, and other things more accurate and efficient, we've been reviewing that over the course of the last several months. At least in terms of the bed inventory, we have it in alignment with the pre-HIC from earlier this year, with the exception of about 35 projects, and we're working with our programs team, and we'll probably be contacting each of those projects to go through that. And as I said, we'll talk about it in a minute. There's also a utilization report that should disclose and make visible to everybody what those counts are for each one of your projects if you run that report. So when you do that, if you can let us know if there's any discrepancies, we can get those cleaned up as well. There is, because of what's available in business objects, and because otherwise in Service Point these things aren't really visible, there's not a lot of visibility for any of you of what those things are, and I think there's some confusion about definitions. So just as a quick overview, the HMIS inventory that's entered into Service Point is comprised of these elements. There's a household type, and they're called family, single, and child. And basically the way they've been utilized in our implementation is that family is intended for adults and children, single is for adults only, and child is for children only. Skipping down a bit, the beds are what a client enrolls in. And there are different categories of dedicated beds, which in many cases don't apply, and most of the inventories are put in as non-dedicated. But if there's a need to dedicate beds to particular uses, those things can be identified. And we're aware that the rapid rehousing beds are a little bit different. A lot of the confusion comes in with units. And from an HMIS perspective, a unit is what a household enrolls in. It's not a building, it's not a floor necessarily, or things like that. And so I think a lot of the issues are going to come in with unit discrepancies in terms of what an agency for its project might define as being a unit under another definition versus what the unit definition is in HMIS and for Service Point. So just to get that little bit of background out there, and again, just a heads up that we want to make a concerted effort to make sure that the inventories we have in HMIS are correct and up to date. The utilization report. So there's an SAP business object report, and it's been revised to include all project types. In the reports that are run for data quality, the utilization report that was part of that didn't include anything other than permanent housing projects. So we've updated the data quality report to include all project types. We also have a standalone utilization report that does an identical thing, which just deals with the inventories and utilization as of whatever point in time date you pick. We'll distribute instructions for how to use that. And again, please run it for each project and let us know if there's any unit or bed discrepancies that are part of that. And there's some other reporting that we're including, and again, in a minute or two here, I'll turn it over to Alex to show how to get at those reports and what the output looks like. In terms of participation, In March, if my calculations are correct, it was 69%, and of course, we'd like to see everybody participating and have that be higher. The agency have visibility to some of the results by running the business objects reports, and they also receive a timeliness report from us that's distributed via email. And for the business objects, things in terms of completeness of data and utilization, there's an opportunity during the process to correct and revise that data to hopefully improve what the results look like. The current process doesn't report results if we don't get the reports from the agency. We could report on 100% of those by running those reports ourselves for each project in each agency. But part of the idea behind this is to make sure the agencies are looking at their results and things like that, and so we don't want to eliminate that step from anyone. So it's a little bit of a dilemma on how we proceed on this, and again, I'll be soliciting input and thoughts and things like that about how we get the participation rate up, and if there's issues with the process, issues with the efficiency of the process or things like that, we can certainly look to address those things. But we'll be putting a schedule out fairly shortly for resuming the data quality process. And again, I just want to encourage everyone to participate. Thanks for the input, Dana. Yeah, the idea here is not to go 100% one or the other, that if we decide to run the reports for agencies, we'll run it for everybody. Again, we want to encourage everybody to participate. How are we supposed to send data quality reports to you? That'll be part of the training that we do. There's a specific email address that is used to send the reports to us, in a specific naming convention for the reports. And we'll cover that, Benicia, in all of the training and documentation that we send out. So in terms of a schedule, we're finalizing the changes, instructions, and training this week. I'm going to set a schedule out by Monday of next week to resume the process. Current thinking in terms of target is the first full week of November. But I want to make sure everything's in place and ready to go, so we don't have the issues we had in March. Honestly, we didn't do a great job there, and there's things we need to clean up. So want to make sure that that's all ready to go, and we don't have people go through something where we're not able to score, not able to actually process the results in a way that's reasonable for everyone. So look for the schedule next week, and that'll include training and updated documentation and things like that. Are there questions about data quality? Okay. So operational audit reporting, these are the reports that I was referring to. When we did the local valuation instrument earlier this year, and some other processes that we've been going through, some of the feedback I got was there wasn't a lot of good visibility to some of the things that were impacting the results for the LVI, and we've noticed in reviewing a lot of the help desk tickets that there's some commonality to issues that people have when they run APRs and other things like that. And so we want to put in place some reports that help streamline that process and help users identify some of the issues on their own. So some of the current ones that we've added into business objects There's the user last login, so you can see who in your agency may be inactive for long periods of time. The utilization report we talked about previously. And this is the one that we found with the APR, where the housing move-in date and time were prior to the entry date into the project, and that causes APRs to blow up often. So I will turn it over to Alex at this point, and changing the presenter to you, Alex, and let him go through some of the reports that we've put in place.
Okay, can everyone see my screen? Well, hopefully everyone can see my screen. So as Mike mentioned, we have created new audit reports and the business objects. I'm going to just give a brief kind of demo of where those reports are located, and also kind of how to generate 2 of them. So at the top right of your screen, you should have a Connect to Business Objects link. When clicking on it, it will open up a new tab for business objects. The reports are located in the reports folders tree. So under public folders, you have your Chicago Live folder, which is going to be the folder that you're going to want to click on. Following that, all reports will be located in the Chicago COC Report Secured folder. So from here, you are able to see this new particular audit reports folder. This would be the folder where the new current reports are, as well as reports will be added to as we add them. So within the audit report folder, as Mike mentioned, we have clients with the housing movement date prior to enrollment, users last login, and utilization. So for just an example, I'm going to use the utilization report. Okay, just really quickly, we have a question from Kayla. Where in HMIS do we click for business objects reports? So in the main service point page, in the top right corner, you should have Connect to Business Objects under your EDA mode. So right under that, it would be Connect to Business Objects. If you click on it, it'll open up a brand new tab. From my experience, Business Objects works best in Chrome. So if you're trying to access it via this link and it's not doing anything once you click on it, it might be the browser that you're using. So again, from my experience, Chrome works the best with Business Objects. Okay, so the utilization report essentially has 2 prompts that will need to be completed for the report to generate. The first one is select the provider. From here, you will select the project that you will want to run the report on. So the project, for an example, I'm just gonna use a project here. And
so Kayla, sorry to interrupt, Alex. Kayla has a question about if she doesn't have Connect to Business Objects, she should try a different browser. No, if you don't have Connect to Business Objects, it probably means you don't have a license for Business Objects. It's a separate license to be able to access that. So if you can just contact the help desk, we can take care of that. What Alex is saying is that if you do have the Connect to Business Objects, it works. Business Objects works best in Chrome as a browser.
Yes, thanks, Mike. So the second prompt that will need to be completed is the PID date plus 1 day. So this would be the date that you would put in, and it would be the date that you are trying to gather the utilization for. So if you're looking for the utilization for, let's say, the 4th, the date that you would put in is the 5th. The reason for this is just so that all clients are counted on the day prior up until the last moment. So you're going to want to select the day after the bid date that you want to get the utilization data for. So my PID date is going to be for the 4th. So in this example, I'm going to choose the 5th. And when you run the report, it runs fairly quickly. You can schedule this report. We do have a link or article in our help desk that will walk through the process of scheduling reports. So this report can be scheduled as well, but it runs fairly quickly. So just generating it in Business Objects is a good option also. So the utilization overview will show your bed utilization as well as the room utilization. It will show the current inventory available, bed inventory available, and also the unit inventory available for that particular project. Underneath each one will show the clients that are enrolled for the bed utilization. And then for the unit utilization, it'll show the households enrolled to make up that utilization percentage. And then it'll have the rate of the clients that are utilizing those beds and unit inventories. Just below this will be what we have in Service Point as your utilization. So as this example, for this particular project, they have actually 2 unit lists. They have a singles and a families unit list. So in the totals up here, the bed inventory and the unit inventory would be a cumulative total of both unit lists. Okay. So this would be a good way to identify what your unit list looks like currently. So if there's any changes or if the numbers here doesn't look correct, please submit a ticket so we can work to address that. This particular report does have 2 tabs. The second tab is the client details. I'm not going to click on this tab just because it does have client information on it, but the details would be what makes up the enrolled. So the clients that are being counted for utilization will be here for their enrolled, and those clients will be found on the details. The household enrolled numbers is based on the group ID or the household ID of the clients enrolled. So that's how this total is made up, and you can find that in the first column of the client's details tab. And once you have this report, if you want to save it, you can export it here. Reports that you are downloading should be labeled as reports and not data. Just make sure you click on all reports just so you're able to download all the tabs located in the reports. This is consistent with all Business Objects reports. If you want to download them, they should be labeled as reports, as well as just ensuring that you're pulling in all the tabs associated with it. So one other report that I do want to just go over very briefly is the user's last login report. Okay, so this report only has one prompt available, and it is to enter the agency ID number. So from here, if you know your agency ID, you can put that here, or if you want to search for it, you can do that as well. So in the example, I'm just going to use facing forward. So if you click it, you can run it. You know what? I'm actually not gonna run it also because it does have user information on it as well, but I can kind of just go through what the tabs look like. So there are 3 tabs. There's an active users tab, a deactivated users tab, and an at risk of being deactivated tab. So the first tab for active users will generate a list of all users at your agency that are active. So when running a report, you are putting in the agency ID. In most cases, all users are created at the agency level. There are very unique situations where clients are created under specific projects, but overall they are created at the agency level. So with this report, even if you do have a user that is created under a level that's under the agency, they will still pull into this report. They still will pull in. So just make sure that you're putting in the actual agency to just generate all clients that, or all users that are at your agency. One thing to notice about this active users tab would be the days since last login. This will be the cumulative total of the days since the report is being generated. So the date is based on the generated report date to make up this cumulative total. Yes, so I'll reshow the path to the reports in just one moment. So for active users, the most important thing to kind of just make sure is to check the day since last login. Also within this active users tab, you will see users where the user's last login date column is blank. This is an indication that the user has not completed training yet, or the user hasn't logged in at all. So in most cases, it is related to training. So when users do sign up for training, we do create the accounts. We just don't make them active yet until they complete training. So you might see those here as well. Deactivated users tab will show all client or all users at your agency that have been deactivated from Service Point. So this tab would be useful if you review it and you happen to see a user that should be active. You would just need to submit a help desk ticket and we can work through getting that back activated. So the most important tab of this report would be at risk of being deactivated. So the list that's going to be generated here is all users that haven't logged in within 90 days. So users that haven't been logged in over 90 days are at risk of having their account inactivated or deactivated. So it's key to run this report quite frequent just to make sure that users are logging in so that they don't have any interruptions in being able to access the system. Okay. And again, if you want to download this report, you would just export it. I recommend downloading all the tabs so you have it available. But that would be the details of this user's last login report. And Stefan just had a question about the path to access the report or audit reports. So again, when you log into Business Objects, you will have this home screen here. If you click on folders, it will present you with a set of folders tree on the left-hand side. If you click public folders, it will show you all of the folders located in it. Chicago Live folder is the report that you're going to want to, or is the folder that you're going to want to click on. Following that, you're going to want to click on Chicago COC reports, secure. And from here, you will have audit reports. So this will be the folder that we will continue to put new reports in, and the folder the current reports are currently stored. So Sarah has a question. What happens if a user is deactivated, but they still need access to HMIS? So if a user is deactivated due to not logging in over 90 days, you would just simply submit a help desk ticket to us, and we will be able to work through getting the account back active. So if it's been 90 days and the user account was deactivated and you reach out immediately and it might just be a chance that we could just reactivate it. If it's over a significant period of time, which we'll send out more details on the exact specifics of how this process will work, but if it's over a greater significant amount of time, it might require training is redone, the intro is redone, or uh, completely redoing training overall.
And just to clarify, we're not currently deactivating people after 90 days, right? So that's a point we might get to, and we might, change this report to be, 180 days or whatever, wherever we land in terms of what the inactivity threshold is. But as of right now, operationally, we're not deactivating people after 90 days. Alex, there was another question from sorry, where'd it go? From Quatorius Carr about where the housing move-in date is located, asking whether it's an interim update on the initial entry. Can you address that one?
Yes. So housing move-in dates are located within the interims. It's located in the HUD assess or the HUD update assessment will be where the housing move-in date is located. It should be completed as an interim. When housing move-in dates are completed at entry, it could cause a couple of complications with the date being prior to the move-in date or prior to the enrollment date. So housing move-in dates should be added via the interim. Are there any?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, were there any additional questions? We do have a couple that came in. So when a household was originally put into HMIS, they were one household. Due to the situation, the household had to be separated. But I can't separate the household, and now the new household is in their own unit. Okay, so this is a unique case that I think I'll need to know a little bit more about the details. So if possible, can you submit this as a help desk ticket and we'll be able to work through this particular situation?
Yeah, I think for Venetia's question and for Sandra's question, if you could open a help desk ticket on those, we can circle back with you and see where the issues are in the reporting, where the issues are with the household, and deal with that in that form as opposed to here, if that's okay. Any other questions for Alex regarding the reports?
Okay, so one question that came in, if we run a user report and there are users that need to be deactivated, how do we do that? You just simply submit a ticket to the help desk and we'll be able to deactivate those users for you.
Okay, thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
I'm gonna make sure my screen's correct. So Sandra, which question are you referring to about sharing the answer with? Oh, double households. Okay. Yep. Hopefully everyone can see my screen again. So as we've been talking about, for the inactive users, we're actively processing and deactivating users who have been inactive for, at this point, 12 months or more. There's some catching up we need to do. And as I said with the reporting, we may reduce that inactivity threshold, but we're trying to just basically do a mass update without impacting users who might be off the system for shorter periods of time without knowing what those circumstances are. And we're really focusing on users that have been assigned Service Point and business objects licenses, since we want to do a good job of reclaiming and managing those license populations, as we get a better handle on that as we renew things with WellSky, we can have a much more accurate user count and know how many licenses we need, and hopefully save the community some money by not overdoing it on the license counts. In terms of HMIS training, we're currently reviewing how we deliver training to end users and ATAs, and would appreciate your feedback on that. We're going through some cataloging and doing some internal review on things, and we'll be formulating a survey that will be posted, and we'll send you the link for that, for what works, what doesn't, suggestions for training improvements and changes. And a note that we're doing training in real time on personal information security. We did one session on Tuesday of this week. The next session is on Thursday, a week from today of next week. The sessions have identical content, so there's no need to go to both of them. If you've been to the first one, you don't need to go to the second one. You're welcome to attend as many as you like, but you only need to attend one. Lots of questions coming in. Could you add the level access that should be given to new case managers? Add that to the report, Sandra, or I'm not clear on what the question is there. Nikki, for does every user have access to business objects? The answer to that is no. Typically, the number of people who run reports within an agency is much smaller than the number of users who are doing data entry or other things within Service Point. Are users or ATs required to attend the PII sessions? It's strongly encouraged. But it is open to other users as well, because the personal information security, lots of people other than ATAs handle it, so it's good to have an awareness level among all the users in your agency. So Joy's question about deactivating a user. So deactivating the user doesn't reclaim their license. That's something that only we can do. So if you want to do the deactivation and you know how to do that, sure, but otherwise it's good to let us know so we can reclaim the license, which is not something that ATAs can do. And Alex, if you have a better answer for Sandra's questions, please weigh in.
Yes, Sandra. So the roles for users, we can make it a little more clear what those roles actually do. I don't think we do a good job at that just yet. But essentially, the case manager roles, what separates them is their visibility to certain data. So we'll put something together and make it available on our help desk that will specify what those roles actually mean and what visibility will come with that.
So that's all the topics that I was going to cover. We can open it up. We have a few minutes left here for any other questions, either on the content or other things that are on people's minds or things you'd like to have us cover in future ATA meetings. I'll give it a minute. If not, I can give people at least a few minutes of their day back. So Erica has a question. There is database software that allows agencies to connect to HMIS to upload client data, but WellSky is not compatible. Are there any updates in the near future that would make this possible? Well, Service Point is a pretty closed system, so there are interfaces that WellSky can build for us to try to import data or have it connected to other systems, but that's done pretty much on a one-off basis. They don't have a general connectivity capability. I'm not sure I haven't seen such a thing in their roadmap, but we can certainly bring that up with them. I have a meeting with them later on today, so I'll let them know that that's possible. I can email the PowerPoint presentation. We'll note the training request on how to run the reports. And there was an earlier question about an update on switching vendors on the HMIS. We don't have any current plans to do that. And there's a lot of work being done on within the community and with our HUD TA regarding the HMIS lead agreement and governance and things like that. And so while all that stuff is ongoing, we're not making any inquiries into other vendors, HMIS software, or anything like that at the current time. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your days. I appreciate your participation and attention, and we'll be in touch. And I'll email this to all of the attendees. So thank you very much.